Hey, turn to the person next to you and tell them you're so happy they're here. Gosh, we need some energy going right now. I'm so excited you guys are here. Are you excited that I'm here? I'm so excited you guys are here. Woo! So guys, this is the final week of our series, Engaging Culture. Why are we doing this series? Why are we talking about this? Hey, I say this because I truly believe it. If you guys hear one thing tonight, hear this. If you can figure out how to be a Christian in middle school and high school, you can change the world. And I mean that sincerely. You can be a pastor in Iraq if you want to do that. You can be a banker on Wall Street. You can be a film producer in Hollywood. You can be world changers, every single one of you, if you can figure out how to be a Christian in middle school and high school, because all the forces of the world are against you. All the pressures of the world are against you right now, even more so, I think, than ever in your life. And that's why we're talking about that. That's why we're talking about engaging culture. Let's look at the quote one more time that we're using for the series. Culture is the water we are swimming in, the air we breathe. We don't even know it's there. So last week we talked about how we can choose certain waters to go into, right? We talked about there's certain waters that aren't best. It's probably not best to spend lots of time in the Brazos or Brazos, whatever it is. The Brazos. It's not good to spend that much time in there because it's not good for us. But what about the waters that you can't choose, right? What about the air you can't choose? The water from our sinks, we can't choose that, right? It's just going to come out. But what can we do, right? If there's water, it's not the best. I don't think any of us want to drink that. If there's water coming out of our sink that's not the best, what do? You set up a filter, right? You set up a filter. I'm sure lots of you guys have filters on your fridges. You guys have filters on your sinks, or maybe you guys use those little like Britas that you put in your fridge. You put a filter on there because it filters out the bad stuff, but keeps the good stuff. Because even the dirty water has good stuff in it. So as we are engaging culture, as we're engaging the culture that we can't choose whether it's there or not, whether we engage with it or not, as we engage with that, our job is to set up the filter. And how do we do that? Let's look one more time at our passage we're using this series, Romans 12, 1 through 2. With eyes wide open to the mercies of God, I beg you, my brothers and sisters, as an act of intelligent worship, to give him your bodies as a living sacrifice, consecrated to him and acceptable by him. Don't let this world around you squeeze you into its own mold, but let God remold your minds from within. Don't let it squeeze you into its mold, but let God remold, so that you may prove and practice that the plan of God for you is good, meets all his demands, and moves towards the goal of true maturity. So I believe that action, that don't let it mold you, let God remold you, that is the filter. That's the filtering process. And it's how we filter out the water and the air from our culture, the bad stuff. It's how we filter the bad stuff and keep the good stuff. However, the only way we can do that is by first knowing the mold that the world is trying to put us into. So, especially the mold that culture is trying to put us into as men and women. I think there's cultures, there's molds that the world is trying to put guys into and girls into. So, and I'm going to talk about two for each. And as I talk about this, let me be clear, this doesn't cover everything, right? I'm talking for 15 minutes. I'm not covering everything. And there's things about these molds that aren't necessarily bad. But I do think that there's lies attached to it, and that's what we're going to talk about. So first, I'm going to start with the dudes. And girls, I want you guys to listen too, because we need to be fans of each other, right? We need to speak out against the molds for each other just as much as we would for ourselves. So the first mold I'm going to talk about with the dudes is the apathetic guy. This is the dude that doesn't care about anything, indifferent to life, passive, careless, aloof. This is the guy that is going to play video games in his mom's basement until he's 30. This is the guy that in commercials, it's that dad that like can't get anything right. It's the YouTube videos guys that are going to toss drinks back into fast food windows. It's like the stupid stupid bunk guy that just does whatever he wants. Hey, it's that attitude. And we see this in pop culture too. I think in like TV shows like Family Guy, the dad can't do anything, right? Simpsons, even like songs right now like Rockstar, Post Malone, just this careless, apathetic attitude towards life. So that's one kind of mold I think world's trying to push guys into. The second is what I would call the aggressive guy. And this is the super aggressive, kind of violent guy, overly competitive, competes at everything, thinks everyone is after him, goes up against everything, really high bravado, really macho. I think we see this like in even kind of the James Bond type guy, the Fast and the Furious. A lot of the rap songs is just highly bravado, and that's where the worth is coming from. So that's kind of the second mold I think the culture is trying to push guys into. And I think with both of those, culture says that both of those personalities only care about one thing. That's sex. I think with the passive guy, it comes out differently. It comes out with this normalizing of pornography. It comes out with like jokes. It comes out with a guy that is too scared to ask out girls, but just talks about it all the time. And I think with the aggressive guy, you see a little bit differently. It's the guy that's always trying to get the girl. He's bragging about it all the time, kind of moves from girl to girl, but it's not really about the relationship. It's only about power. So I think those are the two molds that culture is trying to push guys into and saying that that's normal. And you see that kind of all around, whether it's specific examples like I mentioned or kind of just normative things. So that's with the guys. Now girls, and just like I said to the girls, guys, you need to pay attention to this because we need to be fans of each other, speaking out against the molds that aren't true to what God has for us. So the first mold I think culture is trying to push girls into is the invisible girl. And this is the passive, quiet, no one's really talking to, no one really even notices her. She's not talking too much or talking too loud. She just kind of exists until someone engages with her, especially a guy. And that's where her worth is. It's not really a personality until someone gives it to her. And I think kind of specific examples with that, it's kind of like the hopelessly in love girl you see oftentimes in movies, oftentimes with princess-type movies. I think even songs like What Makes You Beautiful, One Direction, not a bad song, but it's sort of this idea that she doesn't even know her worth until someone tells her her worth. I think you see that even in some kind of old Taylor Swift songs. The second mold is the rebellious girl. And this is kind of the exact opposite of that. This kind of the girl is taking life by the horns and kicks everyone aside as she goes. The relationships don't matter. It's only about what she achieves, and especially in her interactions with other girls, kind of kicking them aside, and it's all about the achievement. And she has taken ownership of all her relationships and kind of will get whoever and whatever she pleases. I think you see that right now with a lot of pop culture songs. I think in reaction to sort of past normative culture, but even like songs like Havana or Sorry Not Sorry or some of the female rap songs. That's kind of the mold that you see. And I think ultimately both of those type of molds, they're both objectifying. The invisible girl, you see that because her worth is given when someone else gives her attention. She becomes an object of someone else's attention, and that's when the worth is given. And I think with the rebellious girl, you see that play out in sort of objectifying herself before someone else can do that to her. So those are kind of the two molds I think our culture is trying to push girls into. And I think with both of those aren't true for guys and for girls. But in order to filter out the lies of those molds, we have to be molded by the truth. What does Scripture say about what a man is? What does Scripture say about a woman is? And the awesome thing is that there's so many examples. Guys, Scripture says that a man looks like Joshua his courageous leadership. It looks like Moses, and just despite his limitations, leading and doing what's best for his people. It looks like Peter, who's the opposite of apathetic. He cares so much, he cuts a dude's ear off. Even though it wasn't my sound's off. There we go, cool. He cared so much, he cut a dude's ear off. And that was a mistake, but he cared a ton. He cared so much, he walked on water and sank, but he cared so much about the Jesus way. A man looks like David in all of his emotions. The lamenting, the tears, the anger, all the emotions. He went through all of it. It looks like Jonathan and his huge love for his friend David. It looks like the Apostle John and his huge love for Jesus. That's what Scripture says a man looks like. What does a woman look like? It looks like Ruth and her massive dedication to her family. It looks like Deborah and her strong leadership in Judges, leading the whole people of Israel into war and leading them. It looks like Mary Magdalene and her massive devotion to Jesus, that even after he dies, she visited his tomb. It looks like Jesus' mother, Mary, who's the epitome of faith, courage, and determination. It looks like Esther and her courage and bravery in the midst of massive trial, leading her people, looking out for her people. And this is one you guys may not know about, but it looks like Phoebe, who in Acts started the church of Philippi, the massive faith and vision to start a church. And ultimately, for both man and woman, it looks like following the character and life of Jesus. So I know that's a lot. And the good thing is that we do small groups, and you get to talk about it in a little more specific way. But let me end with this. As we are engaging with the world, what are we building our life on? What's the foundation of our life? It looks like these blocks right here. I know maybe it's hard to see, but what are the things that we're choosing to put in the foundation? What are the blocks we're choosing to put in the foundation of our life? And that's what it looks like to own your faith. Your family can set you up for that. Your church can set you up for that. But ultimately, you have to choose what the foundation of your life is. What's the mold of your life? Because when you set that foundation, there's only certain things that can fit in there, right? Like I said, some of those molds, there's good things about it. Like in the apathetic guy, there's times in life it's good to be carefree, right? The aggressive guy, there's times in your life it's good to have massive bravery or courage or leadership. The invisible girl, there's times in your life it's good to lead from the back and to encourage from the back. And the, what's the one I'm looking for? Rebellious girl. Like, man, strong, independent woman, let's go. That's awesome, right? There's things about those molds that are good, but when we have our foundation, we get to take the things from those things that will fit on there, right? If it's the courage, it can fit on there, but if it's the things that aren't good, it won't fit onto the foundation that we have. And specific examples, I know you guys watch The Office. A lot of you guys watch The Office. Jack and Pam's marriage, that's awesome. That's Jim. I don't watch The Office. Jim and Pam's marriage is awesome. But it only works it only works in the foundation when it builds off the things that Paul says about marriage in Ephesians and 1 Corinthians. There's things about that work, right? There's things about that show that don't work and don't fit on the foundation of Scripture. I think there's songs that Chance the Rapper has that are awesome. Finish Line, Finishing Strong, that's so good. And there's songs that he sings that don't fit on the foundation of Scripture, right? But when we start with that foundation, we know what fits or what doesn't fit. Once the mold has been set, once the filter has been set, it's easy to see what fits and what doesn't. So there's so many things from the world and the culture that we can learn from that are true and good. But the only way we'll have a true view of ourselves and of the world is to be molded by an encounter with the living God. And this isn't a one-time encounter, but a continuous relationship. We have to be shaped by Christ. In our personal encounters with Christ, we have to be shaped by Scripture. And this allows us to be formed and then engage with the world. It allows us to have that mold and then engage with the world and see what fits and what doesn't. I know it was a lot. But as we respond, we're in a season of the church called Lent. How many of you guys know that? We're in a season of the church called Lent. And Lent is this 40-day process that started this past week, 40-day process of preparing ourselves to really engage with the truth of what Christ did on the cross. That thing, what Christ did on the cross. It allows us to really engage with that. And it's about giving up certain things and taking up certain things to really engage. So, we're going to ask you to join that process with us. There's no cards underneath your seat. And the band's going to play a little bit before they start the last song. I want you to think about what's something that you can give up. There's only 5 weeks left. And actually in the Lent kind of process, you're able to, whatever you give up, you're actually able to engage with on Sunday. It's sort of this break from the fast. So it's really, it's 5 weeks, actually only like 28 days. What's something you can give up for that time that will help in this process of setting your foundation, of figuring out your filter, of figuring out the mold you want to engage with? What's something you can give up? And it could be like a media thing. It can be like a food thing. It can be even maybe like a habit that you have that isn't good. What's something you can give up? Hey, guys, give me like 1 more minute. Thanks. So I want you guys, as the band's just playing some music, to think about that and write it down. And then I want you to come up. As the band starts singing the song, come up and place that card in this little metal basket thing. I don't know what we call that. This little bucket thingy right here. And put that in there. Leave it here. Hey, guys, right here. Leave it up here like you're leaving it, like you're giving it up. And then take a note card from up here. Go back to your seat. And you can finish this process right now in our last song, or you can finish this process in your life group. But what's something that you're going to take up in these last 35 days of the Lent season? Maybe it's a prayer time. Maybe it's scripture. Maybe it's a better habit than the one you're giving up. And that's something you guys can talk about in your life groups. I really want you to, because ultimately we're called to do this in community. Guys, you are beloved childs of God, and he has a vision for you in your life and what he's calling you to. I'm going to pray for us real quick before the band gets started. Hey, God.